Hello, I'm Kemal, and this is Abina, and welcome to another episode of Frank Discussions. Today we have with us Mr. Leonard Craig. He is a member of the People's Progressive Party who defected from the traditional opposition APNU-EFC, or more specifically, the AFC. Mr. Craig sought us out after viewing the recent episode we had with Dr. David Hines, during which we discussed some things like politics and race. And Mr. Craig thought that it was important for him to respond to some of the comments made by Dr. Hines, given that he is one of the persons who has been given some of the more controversial labels that Dr. Hines has placed on persons. So before we get into that specifically, hi, Mr. Craig. We'd like to tell you a bit about who you are personally. Who is Leonard Craig?
Good afternoon, Abina. Good
afternoon.
afternoon, Kemal. I'm happy to be on your program. I consider myself a down-to-earth person who likes to mingle with the ordinary people. And I come from a rural background, and that rural background has informed how I approach things in life, and that has guided my simplicity.
Simplicity is what we use to survive, right? Could you give us a synopsis of your political journey?
I have always loved politics since I was about this high, but I didn't spend too long.
You were actually this high at some point?
Well, that's what I was about to say. I didn't spend too long at that height.
Okay.
I was an avid reader of current affairs, newspapers, and so on. And I grew up in an era when I was a child. We didn't have internet and cell phones as rampant as it is. In fact, in the country area in Berbice where I grew up, there was one telephone in the village, one landline in the village.
Okay.
And you want a call to Georgetown or overseas, you had to go and ask for a call and wait at a particular time to make the call, 3 o'clock, and you sit down and wait at 3 o'clock for this call. But I'd always been interested in politics. But in the village in which I grew up, there were strong PNC representatives. And sometimes in village life, you have family conflicts.
Okay.
And the very PNC representatives had conflicts with my family in several ways. And I grew up with a negative impression because I married those people to their politics because that is all I saw on a daily basis. That's all I saw in them, their political activism. And so I wasn't drawn to the PNC. Instead, I was more drawn to the PPP because there was a gentleman, his last name is Singh, and he used to be the regional chairman of Region Number 6 back in the 90s. And he was the kindest, jovial person I've ever met at the time. His daughter was in my class. And he came over as an affable person. And I looked at him as having the qualities I'd want to see in a political person that I admire.
Okay.
So when I left secondary school at around age 16, 17, thereabout, I made attempts to join the PPP. And when I went to the Berbice branch of Freedom House, I met a gentleman there, and he wasn't very friendly, and I just put it on hold because, it wasn't the best introduction I could have.
Okay.
So I put that on hold. But I knew that Guyana needed a go-between or an alternative between PNC and PPP because that was all-encompassing and all-consuming. And when the AFC came into being, I knew there was something about it that I knew I had to be part of it. And so from day one, in fact, AFC didn't even have a name. They called it Third Force at the time. They didn't have a name, a symbol or anything. And I became part of it and started recruiting people for the AFC immediately. And from Berbice, when AFC had the opening, I sent the first Berbice busload to the AFC opening at Liliendal. And recruited the first set of members in Region 5 for the AFC. And the rest basically is history. I always tell people that there is nobody in the AFC who could point a finger at me at being lazy and not being innovative and not contributing pound for pound with any other contributor in the AFC.
Okay, but now you're no longer in the AFC, you're with the PPP.
Yes.
What is the driving force to go to that party?
So I think after 2020, AFC had, if expire is a good term to use, may not be the best term, but that is what comes to mind. I think AFC had run its course, and I did not see. I signaled to the leadership that I would leave, and I had what I will call exit interviews. I sat with them and talked. One of the leaders, I spoke with him on the phone. Others, I had an opportunity to sit with them. And I did not get a sense that AFC understood where it was and the journey it needs to take to reclaim its former glory, if there is such a term.
Okay.
And after having those talks, I was convinced that AFC has nowhere else to go. And I decided to move on. I was also
what was
convinced
it that stood out in those conversations that
that the leadership had no plan
Okay.
for the future
Okay.
of
There was a lack
either
of
the
vision.
AFC or exactly.
Okay.
And based on the structure the AFC had at the time, which is around 2020, I thought that it is my contribution will not help the AFC in any way. So it was more or less the proverbial glass ceiling. And it was time to then move on.
And why you chose the PPP to move on to?
And when I believed at the time that despite the AFC, in my judgment, will not recover, I thought that there was still room for a third party. And so I flirted for a short time with the WPA.
Okay.
Because I thought that if the WPA reformed and if the WPA were to become a proper membership organization and expand and reach out to people throughout the country, the apathy in the AFC, because I was seeing all of that, would then transfer to the WPA, and the WPA could become a strong political force in Guyana. However, I found that the WPA leadership then did not have interest in being a mass-based party or attracting new and fresh membership and so on. So that didn't last very long. At the same time, I was having a couple of issues with respect to, at the time I was working at Ministry of Home Affairs, and I was having some issues, and I was advised by the then Home Affairs Minister to speak with the Vice President. And as I spoke with the Vice President...
So that was Mr. Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
I was advised by him to speak with the VP. And I spoke with Vice President Jagdeo. And in our conversation, we spoke about a lot of things. Because when I arrived, he said, look, I only got 15 minutes. I came to deal with this issue regarding your workplace issue. And I only got 15 minutes. that 15 minutes turned into 30 minutes, turned into 45 minutes, almost an hour.
Okay.
Because I believe, I might be tooting my own horn, but I believe he found substance in my conversation and in what I was saying. And that part of that conversation, he said to me that if you are still searching for a political home, consider the PPP. And that if you want to make contributions, to continue to make contributions to your country and community, the PPP has a place for you because we believe you have sufficient talent.
Okay.
And I thought about it, and we continued to communicate over time. And in about a year or so thereafter, I chose
Joined the
to go
party?
on board.
So you wanted to respond to some comments made by Dr. David Hines. Could you say what specifically it was that he said that you took issue with?
Yeah, well, I spoke to him directly as well, and I took issue with him name dropping me specifically for his lick bottom epithet that he defined. Now, Dr. Hines is living in a past era. Now, he specifically flagged me for saying that Aubrey Norton is unelectable. And in the same breath, said that Irfan Ali is electable. So his offense that he took to what I said had to do with my comments more or less, that is from his perspective, saying that I am saying that because Aubrey Norton is black. He is not electable because he is black, but I never said any such thing. Okay. But David Hines saw what we all saw, that Aubrey Norton wasn't doing very well. And my comments were that if Aubrey Norton continued along that trajectory, he will not be elected. And at the same time, I said, look, Irfan Ali has grown to become a man of the people. He mixes with the people. He plays cricket. He plays domino with people. He goes on the street corner and give the guys a pound and so on. And if he continues like that to reach out to people and so on, then his quota or the size by which he won the last time will grow. And but I never said he is electable because he is East Indian and Aubrey Norton is not electable. But David Hines saw what we all saw. But David Hines did not want to be honest. And so he hid under that racist, I would refer to it as that racist theme, that a black person cannot negatively review a black leader. And that means then that you are licking the bottom of an East Indian person. And that is an extremely dangerous and racist statement. I heard David Hines come on your program and define racism to mean if you think you are better than the other race.
Your race is better than the
If you
other.
think your race is better or superior. But that is the extreme of racism. That is into a concept called racial supremacy. And that is an extreme of racism. And that is like a destination, but there are waymarks and posts and mileposts along the way.
What are some of those posts?
When, for example, an attack on people because they criticize a person and interpret it that a black man must never criticize another black man in favor of an East Indian man. That is plain old racism. And David Hines cowered under that because he saw what I saw in my analysis, and he was afraid that the PNC and Aubrey Norton is losing ground, and he thought that to regain this ground or to maintain the ground, that he has to go into a place that says, look, this is our traditional base. If we scaremonger them, we will keep them in a kind of a mental apprehension, and they will stay with us. And at least we will consolidate our base. And in that same commentary, I predicted that if they continued with that kind of rhetoric, that they will lose the election and they will lose it badly. And the rest is history. The results are there for us to see.
Okay, so one of the things that Dr. Hines said was that it's very difficult to be a black man in an Indian party. You are in the PPP. How would you assess that comment he has made?
That would be David Hines' interpretation of what he thinks goes on in the PPP.
Because he has never been a black man in an Indian party.
Well, I don't know, but it doesn't seem so. From what I read of him and heard of him, and I had several discussions of him, I think that your statement might be accurate.
Okay.
But what David Hines and several others are doing, they are creating what I like to term a bogeyman in the PPP, and a bogeyman that doesn't exist. Ever since being a part of the PPP, I was welcomed. I don't feel any different from when I was in the AFC. I make my contribution as best as I could.
What have those contributions been? Like you told us the significant contributions that you made to the AFC. What is your role now in the PPP?
I just want to step back a little. When you transition from one party to the next, and you have operated in one party the way and at the level I have, as I've done in the AFC, it is not the same. Politics in Guyana and in anywhere in the world, you have to constantly build trust. And it has nothing to do with race.
Okay.
Right? Another black man going into the PNC, you got to build trust among the membership over time. And I do not think it has been long enough, so to speak, where I would be ingratiated into the PPP as I was in the AFC.
Gotcha.
But given the circumstance, I am allowed to do my thing in pretty much the same way that I have done it in the AFC. I do analytical programs. I write columns. I write letters in the newspaper. I help to... there are other programs that the PPP put on air that I assist with the editing and stuff like that. I go out in communities. I meet people. You wouldn't like to see my phone. A long list of things that people would want to get done, and people want you to help with the in their communities and things like that. And it is standard activism in any party. I get the support of several ministers. I get the support of the vice president. If I meet somebody in a community and there's an issue, I call various ministers or I call the vice president and get yes.
Okay, so back to Kimmel's question. Sorry I interrupted. Your feel in the PPP as a black person? I
can't purport to speak on behalf of an Indian person in the PPP. But as I said, it feels like a normal party you're in as I was in the AFC.
And you're not generally given the cold shoulder or...
Not that I would imagine, but as I said, with the caveat that I understand fully that it takes time, because if somebody were to leave the PPP regardless of their race and come to the AFC at the time when I was in the AFC, they will take some time to
become one.
To use your term.
Okay.
So there may be a beginning skepticism.
And you can't blame anybody, because they are people who have come or gone to parties as Trojan horses, spend some time, gather information or mess up things and then leave and go back to their, and stuff like that. So you can't blame anybody for that.
Could you give an example of that?
Meaning what? Ask the question.
Give an
Trojan
example
horse.
of a Trojan horse that went from one party in our...
Then I would have to name
close
drop,
ones.
and
you're not in that
it's
business.
not yes,
Okay.
right.
Okay, but there's a perception out there that the PPP does not support individuality. Did you find that in your years in the party? Because since 2021 you joined the party, right? Are you encouraged to speak up, to give the Leonard Craig
Yes.
take?
And hear this. I write a column in the Chronicle. I speak freely on the as a co-host on the Freddie Kissoon show. And never once has anybody called me to say, I want you to write about this.
Okay.
Or I want you to write this way. What you see is my perspective on an issue. I even once, right? I remember one day I was sitting down to write and I got writer's block. There was so many things happening in the country, and all of that. And I wanted to write on this, and then I wanted to write on that, and I wanted to write on that. And then I just said, let me call the VP and ask him what he think I should write on. And the man tell me, I can't tell you what to write on. You decide, you see what's happening in the country, you make a call, I trust your judgment. Okay. When he could have easily said, hey, look, this is a priority for the PPP, which I thought that is what he would have said. This is a priority for the PPP, and it would be nice if you touch on this subject, and this is our view, not even that.
Okay.
During the lead up to the election, an executive in the PPP made some controversial comments regarding the house slave label. Mr. Anil Nandalal, he described Coffee, who is a national hero, as a proud house slave, right?
Yes.
He has since apologized for his comments, but how did you feel as a black man when Mr. Nandalal made that comment?
How I felt as a person and as a black man, to use your term. I thought the comments were unfortunate, but Mr. Nandalal himself quickly realized that and apologized. And I have no issues accepting that apology because I don't think he meant harm. He misspoke.
Yeah.
And I treat it as that and move on.
Tell us a bit about the whole PhD scandal.
What's the scandal?
Well, those in the opposition, AFC and APNU.
You hear where it's coming from, the opposition.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
But they claim that you were given a scholarship to go to China to study.
A government of Guyana, joint government of China scholarship.
Under the APNU AFC government.
What does that mean?
Okay, well,
Continue
don't
the
let's
question.
get tied up with that. But they claim that you were given the scholarship to write for your PhD. You went to China and you returned without the scholarship.
I like to
PhD.
plug something here. When you say given a scholarship,
Awarded.
right? Because I applied like everybody else, and I was among the most qualified candidates. Nobody called me into an office and say, they got a scholarship here, there, and we like you to go.
Okay.
Right? I applied, I competed, I was shortlisted, I went through I went to the Chinese embassy and they entered and went through an interview and went through the entire process. So anybody who tells you that Granger or anybody gave me a scholarship, it was open to all Guyanese, and I applied, and I do not believe that I received any special favors.
Okay.
Right?
Clear.
I went to China. I studied for my PhD in public economics. I wrote all my exams, wrote my thesis, and was successful in all of them. But the school that I attend requires people, and I'm speaking frankly here and without guile,
Well, this is frank discussions.
requires its students to do something like what doctors have to do. You go through a rotation before they issue you a certificate.
Like an internship?
Yes.
Okay.
And I sadly, but the door is still open, and I can do. I did not do the internship, which also included what you call peer review journal article. But the humbug there was that it has to be in one of the top 10 journals in the world. That's the journals where, because the university I went to was the Harvard of China.
Okay.
And you must publish right where the Harvard professors and Cornell and all of those universities publish in the same journal. Because of COVID, I came home, and you are away from the academic setting, and I start working. I start raising a family, and
But you can still salvage that.
yeah, surely. That it's not just. It's just I have all the documents, just a matter of publishing, and then tell the people I come from a thing. So
I come from a thing.
yeah, small
Okay.
thing.
So in the beginning of this interview, you told us about your days in Berbice and why you weren't drawn to the PNC because of the kind of politics that you saw represented. It's for you, it has a lot to do with the individual, and I see that consistent in why you think Irfan will be successful, His Excellency, because of the kind of person he is. Let me know a little bit of how you felt about your demonstration as a politician when you made the resurrection slime up comment, and what sort of impression you think that you would have on those like you who look at that to know if they like this kind of politics or not. And tell me also a little bit about the backlash you received.
All right. Again, I like to deal with things frank and straight up. When I was given a slot to speak, it was originally for 8 minutes. But I was slated to speak towards the back end of the rally. And I did not realize that there were over 12 people to speak.
Okay.
And everybody had a time, and people keep going over a little by little by little. But by the time my time came around, I was told, you're going to make it 2 minutes and move on.
Okay.
And so I said, what can I say in 2 minutes? Because I prepared an 8-minute speech, and I had it sequentially and knew what I was going to say and so on.
Okay.
So I said, what can I say in 2 minutes? Then I reasoned to speak after me. We had Minister Parag. You had the Vice President, the Prime Minister, the President, and I'm missing somebody. You had this guy, the Tushao of the largest Amerindian reservation in Region 5.
Right.
And all those persons had to speak after me. And I knew they were going to speak on policy, what the government is going to do, what the government has done. So I said, there's no need for me to be repetitive and no need for me to, So I said, you know what happened? I'm going to use my 2 minutes to hype up this crowd and just move on.
Okay.
And it was an attempt at being creative, right? Because I mentioned that one government, let's say APNU, said they're going to take care of you from cradle to grave,
yes.
and so on. And we are going one step further, right? Before the cradle and after the grave, right? Just an attempt Just an attempt
To be
to be
creative.
creative.
Okay.
And sometimes the creative mind can stray a little too far. I accept that I did. But in that moment, with the electricity of the crowd and all of that, I think common sense took some
Left
flight. And I indulged in the moment, and it turned out to be overindulgence. And I understand that I rubbed some people the wrong
Indulgence is a good word, being the nature of the comment.
Are you regretful of making the comment?
It is, I am not sure it's something you should regret. But I'll explain the regret in just a second.
Okay.
But I'm saying, generally speaking, I'm not sure it's something you should regret. I accept that I went too far. I accept I rubbed some people the wrong way. But it was not intended. You look at it, you see it was just an open, plain joke that went wrong. And it was not intended to hurt anybody. It was not directed at anybody or any group or any such thing.
And it's not who you want to be seen as a politician.
Exactly. And you know, I am very, very capable of presenting cogent speeches. I had to do that at all the levels of my studies. I do that in church. I do that. And anybody who sat in a class with me at any time could never accuse me of not being able to make cogent presentations on anything.
Okay.
But come back to the regret part. What I regret, though, is that the president had a wonderful speech. He outlined a major agricultural project for Region 5 and major plans for Region 5. And the next day, that should have been the headline. But instead of that,
It was eviction,
my
resurrection.
God, yes, was the headline, and that overshadowed all the what the president had to say, and that would be, if there is a regret, that would be my regret.
That's a fair regret. Did you go on any other stage after that? Any?
Yes. I spoke throughout Region 5 continually
Good.
until the end of the election.
So there wasn't any fallout based on that?
I not clear what fallout means.
No,
but
because I saw a very
continued-
prominent member of the party, Minister Prasad. She had a statement to make, and I know she's influential in the party. So I just wanted to get a clear idea as to if that transcended.
I do not know what is the effect of that comment.
Okay.
But as I said, I had speaking appointments, and I continued and I kept all of them. I had walkabout and other appointments, and I kept all of them and participated in the election campaign as normal.
So I just wanted to get an idea about what you spoke about, why you decided to leave AFC in the end, because you felt like if they didn't have a vision on how to move forward. What is your vision now for you as Leonard Craig, I keep calling you Leonard. Leonard
Yeah, that's
Craig.
all right. No, that's all right. That's all right.
Okay. Leonard Craig, the politician. You intend to stay in the PPP for the long haul. What next for you? What are your aspirations?
Okay, so what I can tell you with respect to my politics, I do not know if I would spend all my days or remaining days as a politician, or if I will choose to change to some, or to pivot to some other field, like community activism outside of politics or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. But what I know for sure is that when it comes to being part of a structured political movement, the PPP would be the final party with which I would be part of and be active with. After the PPP, there's not going to be any. I know that for sure.
So that means you definitely have no regrets moving away from...
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Might it not have been a move of convenience as you were seeing the downfall of the AFC as we have seen it play out now?
You jump from a sinking ship?
Some people can call it that, but I do not. People, look, let me put it this way before I answer the question directly. If somebody who is interested in politics and is in politics comes to you and say, look, I am part of this political party or political movement, but I don't want nothing, I'm interested in nothing, I just here to contribute. If somebody say that to you, run, because the damn lie.
Okay.
We, all politicians, have self-interest. And you hope that your self-interest dovetails with your community interests and your national interests.
Right.
And I believe I also have self-interest. I will never deny it. Right? And with respect to self-interest, I hope as I pursue my self-interest that it is along the line of making sure and helping as far as I can the Guyanese people to be better, that we can have a better Guyana, a better society, and make contributions that your family, your community, and your country could be proud of.
Nice.
And that is who I am. And to come here to pretend as though if I am asked to serve in a capacity that give me national recognition or something, that is not what I'm here for. And I'm not here to pretend.
Okay.
Right? But I am here to say to you that if that comes my way, that I will give it my best, understanding that I'm here to serve my nation to the best of my ability.
Do you have a particular interest in helping particularly the Black community?
Yes, and I write in the Guyana Chronicle, and I've written several pieces on that.
Okay.
I wrote one that the Irfan Ali government should consider local reparation, just as how we're pursuing reparation from overseas.
On the international stage.
Now
start
that
at
we
home.
have a windfall, prior to oil, we may not have been able to contemplate that because certainly we didn't have the resources. But now with oil, we have kind of like a windfall that some of that money could be used to pursue local reparation. And local reparation don't mean finding Black people and give them a check that you don't give to East Indian people. I prefer that it be in the communities that African community, especially those long-standing communities that were purchased by slaves and so on, that have aspects of underdevelopment to them, that special attention be given to raising the level and livelihood of those communities.
I know it's the last question, and I promise this is the last one. But do you think it's a bit hypocritical to go on the international stage and ask for reparations when you haven't been pushing that agenda at home?
It depends on what you mean, but I believe that the two should go hand in hand.
Thank you, sir.
All right. There you have it, folks. We have heard from Leonard Craig about his political journey, his response to Dr. David Hines, and his belief in the promise of the People's Progressive Party. Share your thoughts on what he has said, and thank you for tuning in to Frank Discussions.
Bye.